Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Amen. So, hi. Nice to see you. I was driving on a long drive a few weeks ago, and I heard this story. And the story itself captures, for me anyway, really almost the whole of the gospel message. So it includes this story today. It really encapsulates what we just heard Chris read as well. So you want to hear it? Before I'm tell you the story, I got to set it up, okay? Because I want to share with you why I think it captures the whole of our gospel, the whole of it. So for me and for many other people within the Christian tradition, the gospel really is primarily about helping us live life. I mean, we read the gospel, and it was written to help us live life. To help us live life as authentically and completely as each and every one of us can. That's why I think we read it. Now, there's others within the Christian world, and they seem to think that the gospel is primarily about who gets to go where after death. That's the whole reason it was written. To either get you into heaven, keep you out of hell, or whatever, okay? You with me? I can't tell with your masks on. Okay? Okay. All right. So if I view the gospel that we just read through that lens, the lens of who gets to go where, then our story today is basically this. You better use all the gifts you have, or else you'll be punished. Right? But when you view today's gospel through the lens of it's all about helping us live life now. If we view the gospel that way, then the bottom line, for me anyway, is this. Everyone has something to offer the world. No exceptions. Everyone has something to offer the world. No matter where you are, no matter how old you are, everyone has something to offer the world. So the story I'm about to tell you, for me anyway, powerfully illustrates this way of seeing the gospel, really, and of seeing life. So it's a story based on actual events. The names have been changed and a few little additions, but the core of it happened, okay? So somewhere in the state of Florida, not sure where, I think it was during the 1940s, not 100% sure, but it was a while ago, there were two women. And these two women, somehow or another, were each able to purchase a piece of land. Never happened in the 1940s that two women could do that. And somehow or another, these two pieces of land ended up next to each other. So they were neighbors with just a fence separating them. So one woman, and we're going to call her Lucy. Lucy took a part of her land and created a garden. She planted tomatoes, she planted beans, she planted collard greens, she planted other vegetables, and she even planted flowers. And it wasn't too long before Lucy's garden was the most beautiful garden that anybody had ever seen. Just beautiful. You see, one of Lucy's great talents is helping things grow. She really can do it. So Lucy just loves working in her garden. It's her happy place. And not only does she love working in it, she loves sharing the gifts of her garden with everyone she meets. And anyone that will take it, she'll share them with her. So Lucy has all the ups and downs that any human life has. We all have them. She has them. But she and her garden are just a blessing to everyone that grows and grows and grows. Now her neighbor, let's call her Gladys. She couldn't grow a garden to save her life. It just wasn't her gift. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't grow anything but just more dirt. She's got many gifts, Gladys, lots of them. The gifts that enabled her to purchase a piece of land and build a house, to name just a few. But helping a garden to grow just isn't her gift. Not everybody has every gift. But for some reason, for some odd reason, this just made Gladys mad. As a matter of fact, it made her furious, especially when she looked across the fence and saw Lucy's beautiful garden. She thought to herself, it was as though every time she looked at that garden, Lucy was saying to her, "Look what I can do, and you can't." So, every time she looked at that garden, she forgot all about her own gifts. She forgot all about what she had to offer the world, and she just focused on what she didn't have. Well, it didn't take long before she didn't think she had anything worthwhile, much less anything to offer the world. And then this just made her even more mad. So as you can imagine, Gladys was jealous of Lucy. Her jealousy led to envy, and her envy led to hate. She hated Lucy. She didn't even know her, but she hated her. Look at her, she thought to herself. Who does she think she is? Anybody can see she doesn't deserve to have that garden. Look at that person. So she vowed that she would destroy that garden and put Lucy in her place. So one night, Gladys's envy that became hate led her to act. So she gathered all of the manure from her. She had a chicken coop, and she took all of the chicken waste, all of that manure, and she took it and she went over and she dumped it into Lucy's garden. And then she slinked back home. The next morning, Lucy walked out to her garden and she saw what Gladys had done. She looked at it for a long time. She just looked at all that waste right there in her garden, and she thought and she thought and she prayed, and then she knew what she was going to do. So she knelt down and she took that waste and mixed it with her good soil. She just mixed it and mixed it and mixed it, and then she planted some flowers. But for a long time, I don't know how many nights, but night after night after night, Gladys would dump the chicken waste into the garden. And day after day after day, Lucy would take that manure and mix it with her good soil. And pretty soon, her garden became even more beautiful. So then one day, don't know how it happened, Gladys got sick. Not sure what it was, but it put her in bed. She was laid up in bed, and while she was laid up in her bedroom, the only person that visited her was the doctor who made house calls. Because, as it turned out, Gladys wasn't just mean to Lucy, she was mean to everybody. I don't know why, but she was. So nobody visited her. And as she laid in her bed, she was just kind of stuck in the isolation of her own frozen heart. Just stuck there. And she got more and more fearful as she was stuck there, and more angry toward life. Or as the way the Bible puts fearful and angry toward life, you know how it puts it? She wept and gnashed her teeth. pretty soon, right there in her own bedroom, Gladys lived in the darkness of her own creation, the darkness of her own hate. And she lived in it, and lived in it, and lived in it for what felt like forever. Until one day, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't her doctor. So she screamed, "Come in!" And in walked Lucy, of all people. Here, she walked in, and you know what she had? Flowers. A bouquet of flowers. And she put the flowers down on the desk, and Gladys looked at them, and she was so stunned. She was so stunned that Lucy would even take the time to visit her, much less bring her these beautiful flowers. She was so stunned that that hatred that filled her heart, it melted just enough for her to say, "Well, those are the most beautiful flowers I've ever seen." And Lucy paused for a second, and she looked at her with really, really kind eyes, and she said, "Well, you helped me grow them." My friends, every person in the world has something to offer. Everyone. And when we offer what we have to the world, life, you see, is blessed. It's blessed by our gifts and through our gifts, and we're blessed too. And when we give those gifts, they grow and they grow and they grow, just like the flowers. And so do we. So today, find what you have to offer the world, no matter how small you think it is. No matter what you think, no matter if you think it won't matter, find some little gift and offer it. Give it away. And watch it and you just grow. Amen.